Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Addie and this is my November wrap-up. I am super excited to be talking about the 11 books I read this month. I cannot believe I read 11 books this month, but just to kind of give you some perspective on what exactly it was that I did read, I had 4 5-star books, I had 6 4-star books, and I had 1 3-star book. And of those books, I had 4 that were fantasy, 3 that were contemporary, 3 that were historical fiction, and 1 sci-fi book. I had 4 young adult books, 6 adult books, and 1 middle grade book, and all of that combined for 4,447 pages. I'm losing my mind. I have had like the best 2 months reading. Like October and November were like just killer for me. Like I knocked it out of the park reading. I'm so excited. And like, it's probably because I decided to start BookTube, and also because readathons work really well for me because I am nothing if not competitive, and especially competitive with myself. So like all of these things have combined to like just, you know, make a super great like reading environment for me for these last 2 months. So thank you to everybody who's watching this, and also to everybody who does BookTube. What an inspiration. Anyway, I am gonna go ahead and get started on my review. Not my review, but like my wrap up. What I'm going to start with is my 3-star book of the month, and that was I'm Not Dying With You Tonight by Kimberly Jones and Gilly Segal. I don't know actually how to pronounce her name, so I'm sorry if I butchered that. But anyway, how I kind of came across this book was that I was searching through my library on Libby and trying to find an ebook or an audiobook to read, and right across the top was this huge banner about the Big Library Read, and I was like, what is this? And so basically what the Big Library Read is all of the libraries that are participating in it will make the ebook available for a specific title, and a whole bunch of people can read it at the time. And then if you go to like the Big Library Read website, which I will link below, if you go there, you can like discuss it with people. So it's basically like a giant book club sponsored by the library. I just thought that was awesome. And you just could get a hold of the e-copy of the book like immediately. You didn't have to wait. You didn't have to put it on hold. You didn't have to like ask for it. Like you were just like clicked download and it was there. It's a super cool program, and I'm really glad that I discovered that it exists. Also, I'm Not Dying With You Tonight. That's a catchy title, man. Like it caught my attention so quickly. But what the book is about is these 2 characters. One is a white girl and one is a black girl, and they are at their school when a fight breaks out, and then that fight kind of moves out of their school and into the city at large, and the city kind of descends into a riot. And so those 2 characters have to learn how to depend on each other to kind of survive the night. And the reason that I gave it 3 stars was that I felt like a lot of the decisions that the girls made were not decisions that they would have made logically. Like, so their whole journey throughout the thing is to find this ride to get home, and there's a person that is somewhere that they're trying to get to. So they are like going through the city while it kind of descends into a riot, and at one point they are like explicitly offered a ride to wherever it is that they're going, and they turn it down, and I'm like, why would you do that? So that seemed like a little unrealistic to me, even for teenagers. I just feel like that was unrealistic. So that was why I gave it 3 stars. But I do feel like this book is a really, really good like conversation starter. So if you are wanting to discuss like race relations with people and like how people different than yourselves deal with things, like I felt like they did a very good job of getting like both perspectives. So I appreciate that they were trying to like promote conversation and like really just, you know, like talk about issues that are relevant to today's society. So that was a really, really good book. Beyond the fact that I was like, I felt like they made decisions not because they were actually would have made those decisions, but just because it furthered the plot, and I didn't enjoy that part of it. So my 4-star books for this month, I had 6 of them, so I'm just going to start at the top of the month and move on through the end of the month. And the first one that I read this month was This Is How It Always Is by Lori Frankel. And this book, I think it was like a Reese Witherspoon book club book at one point, so you may have heard of it. But what it is about this family who have a transgender or gender fluid character. Like, I don't want to explicitly state that it is a transgender character because I don't think that it says anywhere in the text that this child is transgender, but they are going through like gender dysphoria and like all of that. So it's just kind of a perspective of the family as they deal with the issues within themselves and also society around them, and like what they have to do to keep their child safe. So it's a really, really good book. I highly recommend it, especially if you don't know anything about gender politics, I guess, and you're wanting like a perspective from a family that's dealing with those things. And one thing that I do have to say that I felt like was a real strong suit for this book was that the family was so supportive of the gender fluid character, because they like dealt with their issues and everything, but they also worked really, really hard to provide a loving and caring environment for that character. So I feel like so often when people are creating stories that deal with the LGBT plus community, a lot of the stuff that actually gets greenlit and gets put into our everyday perspective is like not super healthy or supportive. Like they're usually like some kind of tragedy. And I just appreciate that this story provided a positive example of like loving and caring and supportive family members for this person. I felt like that was handled really well. But yeah, I give it 4 of 5 stars. Highly recommend checking it out. If, you know, like you don't know very much about gender politics, it really, really helps to kind of see a perspective of like what people are going through. So I just recommend it for that, because there was a lot of things that they had to deal with within the story that I just feel like, you know, provides a little bit of perspective for people that are just don't know or are unaware of like things that people have to go through just for being a little bit different. And I thought it was handled well. So that was that book, and I've tried to handle that sensitively. If there is a better way for me to approach that, please let me know in the comments, but I tried. So the next book that I'm going to be talking about for my 4-star group of books, I guess, is going to be Keeper of the Lost Cities by Sharon Messenger. And this is a story about Sophie Foster, who is an elf that was raised by humans because she is special and she needed to be hidden until such a time as they wanted her to be found. And so she goes into elf society and has to leave her life behind and deal with like all of the like learning her new powers and like all of that. And she creates this really cool like friend group because it's a middle grade fantasy series, and I am loving it. I cannot wait to get a hold of the second one. It's gonna be so good. I don't want to like spoil too much, but I really, really enjoyed it. I did feel like Sophie got out of a lot of things because she's super powerful and like always has the power that she needs like right at the tips of her fingers. So her character is designed to be like that though, because she's special. And so I'm like kind of on the like, do we call her out for being a Mary Sue, or do we like just appreciate that she's female and is super awesome and the Anakin Skywalker? You know what I mean? Like I'm kind of about it, but I'm kind of questioning it. Yeah, I think as the series goes along, she will come across things that are going to be a lot more difficult to deal with than they are in this first book. So I'm really excited to read the rest of the series. So the next 4-star book that I had was Summer of 69 by Ellen Hildebrand. I read this during Buzzword Readathon, so if you want my immediate reactions, it's going to be in that vlog video. I will link it below. This book is about this family from Boston, and they are vacationing for the summer on Nantucket, and so they have like 5 female characters that are kind of the story centers around them as they deal with the different issues and things that are going on in the summer of 69. So there's like Woodstock, there's the moon landing, there's Ted Kennedy driving into the water with somebody with him, and there's like the Vietnam War and like a whole bunch of civil rights stuff. So it kind of just touches on all of that, and it was like a really interesting book because it was like, of course one family would be like connected to all of these things because everybody was connected to all of those things because it happened in 2 months over the course of the summer of 69. Like it blows my mind. And I don't know, that's probably like the time period that if I could go back in time, I would probably go back to the summer of 69 because it's like so much stuff was going on. And also I would have loved to have gone to Woodstock, but that's just a me thing. But anyway, so yeah, it was a 4-star book. There was like, it wasn't a 5-star book because I kind of got bored a little bit in some of it because it was like talking about rich people problems, and I'm just like, I don't care about rich people problems and like saving face and stuff like that. So the next book that I read, I also read during Buzzwordathon, and it was The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. If you don't know what this is about, it's all over booktube, but basically it's about this Hollywood starlet who is trying to like right the wrongs of her past by telling her story and everything. And so she has these 7 husbands, and she goes back and she explains the story of why she had the 7 husbands, and it ends up that it's this great romantic love story, and it was just fabulous. But I also like binge listened, like I listened to it on audiobook and I binge listened to it, like the whole thing. And I think I probably would have enjoyed it more if I'd like read it, and also if I maybe hadn't read Six of Crows right before for it because I loved Six of Crows so stinking much. I just didn't get that feeling when I was listening to or like reading Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, but I do highly recommend the book. It's really like quite romantic in the like best way possible, and you can take everybody else's word for it, I guess is what I want to say. But it was a 4-star book for me because I did enjoy it and I thought it was really good and the writing was really good and the story was amazing. I just thought it was a little long and a little tedious in a couple of places, and that's probably because I just finished Six of Crows and also was listening to it on an audiobook in a binge session, so I didn't do it a service, I guess is what I want to say. All right, so the next book is The Last True Poets of the Sea by Julia Drake. This story was so poignant and like it dealt with a lot of mental health things, and so I just really enjoyed it. There was a lot of sibling dynamics, family dynamics, finding yourself. I just felt like it was a very solid book, and it was set in Maine, which was awesome because it was like I had details that were mentioned in the book that I like could picture in my head because I've lived there. It was just very solid. It dealt with a lot of mental health stuff and a lot of like sibling relationship stuff. So if that's your jam, that's it. There is a content warning for attempted suicide, and if you're triggered by that, maybe don't read this one, but it was really poignant. I'm really glad I read it. All right, so the last book that I read this month that was a 4-star book was Fahrenheit 451, which is my classic of the month and also part of the Buzzword Readathon that I participated in. And it was a story about Montag, who is a fireman, and he goes into people's houses when they are found to have books and sets fire to the books. He runs into this neighbor of his called Clarice, and she kind of gets him to start questioning what he's doing and what his role in society is. He starts thinking about what is so important in these books that people are willing to die for it and like willing to hide it and willing to do all of this for it. And so he goes through this like moralistic journey of like what is information and what are ideas and like why are they important and why are books important. And so it was just like a very interesting commentary on society, and also like, you know, just I feel like it was just like that classic like idea, and that so many people have at this point taken that idea that is within Fahrenheit 451 and expanded on it and used it to create like wonderful, amazing stories. I'm super thankful to Ray Bradbury for creating the story because I just feel like it was something that needed to be said, and it was just told in such a succinct and like critical way, I guess. And I just really enjoyed it, and I had a great time reading it, and like it's a classic for a reason. So yeah, that was my 4-star books. I am going to move on to my 5-star books. So now we are moving on to my 5-star books that I read this month, and I'm going to start off with A Conjuring of Magic by V.E. Schwab. This is the 3rd and final installment in the Shades of Magic trilogy, and this one was very like Holland centric, which it's a 5-star book because I went into this book being all like, I hate Holland. He's freaking awful. And I came out of it loving Holland. So I just think anything that does that kind of like character development for me personally, like deserves to have 5 stars. And that is what I loved about this book. But I'm not going to talk very much about it. I will give you a basic overview on the series as a whole. So it is about these 3 people that are Antari. They have the ability to travel between the worlds, and there are 4 different worlds. There is Red London, White London, Black London, and Grey London. And Grey London is like our London in like the 1800s or something like that, where, you know, like there's not very much magic and not very much going on there. Red London is very flourishing and everybody has magic, but they don't use it against each other because it's just like free flowing and it's always going to be there. Then there's White London that has magic, but the people that have magic use it to maintain power. And then there's Black London, which has been consumed by magic. And this series is kind of about Black London trying to consume the rest of the Londons at this point. So that is all that I'm going to say about that. That series, so good. Cannot recommend it enough. Definitely check it out. I love Kelmaresh. Like, I would die for Alicord Emery. Lila Bard is badass. Rye, oh my god, I just love all of the characters. So they're all like just very iconic and very fun. All right, so the next 5-star book that I read was The Map of Salt and Stars, and this was a story that was about this family of Syrian immigrants in New York City who, after their father died, moved back to Syria to be closer to family. And while they are there, their neighborhood gets leveled by a bomb. And so they have to go on this journey to get to another relative's house. And so they're traveling from Syria all the way to Spain. And it is like just this journey of this family and like what they are having to go through as refugees and all of the things that are like happening. And while that story is modern day and set in a time where, like, you know, things that are happening now are happening there, there's also this like other story that the main character is kind of telling, because her father used to tell her this story, and so she is kind of like telling us that story as she goes along. And it's a story about a girl who is a map maker, and it's very like fantastical in that kind of like Arabian Nights kind of type way, like Shahrazad kind of type story. It was just gorgeous. Like, oh, I loved it. It was just like everything about this book just jived so well with me that I just was like, I could not give it anything less than 5 stars, because it was just like beautiful lyrical writing, awesome story, and just all of the things that were happening. There was like so much symbolism and like parallelism and like all kinds of stuff, and I just cried, and it just hit me in the heart. So I so enjoyed this book. It was 5 of 5 stars. Highly recommend it. Okay, so my last 2 books that I read in the month of November that were 5 stars were, of course, the Six of Crows duology by Leigh Bardugo. These books, how do I explain how much I love these books? Okay, so these books being Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, they're basically leverage with magic. And I'm like not a casual fan of leverage. Like, I'm one of those people that, like, if my house was on fire, my leverage DVDs would be like one of the things that I grabbed, because I love them so much and I watch them all the time. And I'm like not watching just like the episodes, I'm watching like the audio commentary kind of type stuff. So I love heist stories, and this one specifically was just so in the vein of leverage that I was like, I am picking up like tropes from leverage that were like huge things in Six of Crows. So I just had the best and most wonderful time reading this entire thing. Six of Crows I read during Buzzword Readathon, so my reactions, like probably the majority of that video is my reactions to Six of Crows, and it was just like such a like good, fun, like boisterous, like, oh my god, like why did I not read this earlier kind of type feeling that, you know, like immediately after having finished that book, I went and got on the wait list at my library to get the ebook for Crooked Kingdom. Like I couldn't even wait to go pick it up like in person or like to go buy it somewhere, because I was like, I need to read this as soon as possible, and the ebook is going to be the thing that I can get a hold of first. So that was just freaking amazing. What the story is about is this group of people that come together to make some money and steal some stuff from an impenetrable fortress. Over the course of trying to do the impossible, end up, you know, just like creating this very cool, fun family that would protect each other no matter what. And it was just so freaking good. I laughed, I cried, I had the best time. I hated some characters, I loved some characters, and just everything. All right, so that was my November wrap up. If you liked this, please hit the like button. If you really liked it, please hit subscribe, and I will talk to you guys later. I hope you have a wonderful December, and I will see you next week. Goodbye.